Hey guys, it's Keith with a Wednesday Night Crit, and this week I'm doing both the A and the B races. I managed to avoid any flats, no bad luck this week, so I am doing both, and we're watching the A race right now. One important thing to know about both the races today is that there's a very strong headwind going into the finishing straight that we're on right now. So we're all sprinting into that headwind. I mean, it's like 18 or 20 miles an hour, just steady. It's a killer. Which means the back end of the course is really fast. We got a strong tailwind, but it makes being, aero and kind of staying out of the wind on the finishing straight very important. Now, my plan from the start of the race here, as you can see, is to set just a really hard pace right from the gun, not to try and get a breakaway, a race-winning breakaway from the beginning or anything, but just to put the entire race under pressure. And it seems to be working. You see Nathan's on my wheel, but then there's a good amount of space behind him. There's just two guys there. And then behind them, there's a fair amount of space before the rest of the group. So after a couple laps of just punishing the group like this, the entire race really gets trimmed down from 9 starters to probably 5 or 6 people still in contention in the front group, which opens up a lot more options tactically later in the race. So a few laps later, we're looking at a preem lap here, and coming out of this first turn, everyone's kind of sitting up, trying to see who's going to go first, and I'm sitting on the front, which is not a good place to attack from, but I decide to go for it anyways, especially just given the length. I think I'm particularly well suited to holding an attack for that sort of duration, and so Robert is the closest on my wheel, and then we're getting a little bit of space behind him to Jose and to Michael behind him. And again, this is really just looking for the preem. It's early enough in the race where burning a few matches here is not really going to jeopardize, my potential at the very end of the race. There should be time to recover. And we've got some space, so he eased up through the turn there. And see that Jose and them are still pretty close, and I don't want to get out-sprinted by Robert. So I give it a good push and still manage to cross the line first. But right as we get to the line, back there you see Jose and Michael sit up and drift back. Just giving us a ton of space. And Robert looks back and sees that and realizes we just accidentally got a breakaway. That's the hard part, is getting away, and that just happened for us. And so he takes up on the front. I am completely gassed from doing that sprint, but I look back and realize what he sees, that we need to work on this and capitalize. So I jump back on his wheel. I tell him I'm on, and so he starts laying it down. And now, because of all the effort from earlier in the race to split everybody up, the biggest single group besides Robert and I is 2, maybe 3 people. So it's not like there's a big pack who's able to chase us. I mean, the closest group is Jose and Michael. I think they'll end up meeting up with one other person later in the race. So there's only at max 3 people to chase us down, which gives us really, really good odds of staying away throughout the rest of the race, because we're able to work just about as efficiently as another group is. So we do end up staying away for really the rest of the race. This happened quite early, like 2/3 of the race is still remaining. But Robert and I worked really, really well together, just sharing our poles like clockwork throughout the entire thing, and ended up lapping the field 1 or 2 times. So it was a very successful breakaway. Now, with just a few laps left in the race, it's time to start attacking Robert to try and go for the win. So he finishes his pole and I set off. I'm expecting him to respond and for this to take, 1 or 2 or 3 tries to really set in, until I can break him. But he doesn't follow me at all in that first one, and he's looking at Nathan beside him saying, hey, can you help me out? But Nathan's going to be my teammate very soon, and he's also lapped, so he says, no, I can't help you. So it's just me and Robert for the rest of the race. And Robert puts in a really solid chase. I mean, he doesn't let me get very far. I really had to earn this one. But I end up crossing the line by myself for first in the A race. So there we go.
Race is ready.
So after having just a couple minutes to recover after the A race, we're on to the B race, and the plan in this one is just to work for Jesse. I told him I'll chase moves, I'll go after stuff, basically until I blow up. But I'm not really in it for me. I'm just trying to set him up to stay protected for a nice sprint finish. So I just spend most of the race, pretty much the entire race, sitting on the front, just kind of clawing back moves as they go. So a few laps in, people start to kind of, make their moves and go for things. So there goes Nathan, future teammate, not current teammate. So I still have to chase him down. Max goes on ahead, but rather than, really sprinting after it, my goal is to just let him get some space, let him get out there and work, claw it back. And so, just a lap later or so, we're coming back, people are countering. But the whole goal is that if you're sitting behind me, if you're Jesse or you're Grant, you're one of my teammates, the whole ride for you is just a steady pace, not surging and responding to this stuff. Like, it's my job to slowly bring it all back. And so that's really the theme of the middle of the race. And a lot of people went for attacks, and everyone just kind of got pulled back. And I realized this kind of sucks for a lot of the other people who are in the race, because that's not a super enjoyable way to run a race. But it's a tactic, it works, and that's me working for my teammate. One of the Nick Lopez guys, Barney, gets up there, and his teammate Jose knows what I've been trying to do, and so he does some really just like blatant blocking, and Elias pops up there and says, man, that's not cool, let's not do that. At some point in the race there, Jesse's moving up. I'm kind of boxed in the back, and Jesse's feeling nervous about a move, and so he goes up to chase it himself, which is fine. I figure he might be feeling bored and just wants to stretch the legs a little bit. So he goes after that. We pull him back a little bit later, and I resume my duties on the front. Then I realize I've lost Jesse, and so I kind of start to drift back looking for him, and I realize Jesse's not here. Apparently he, after chasing down that move, had a really bad asthma attack and had to pull out of the race, which is super bad news for him and really changes my race, because now I have nobody to work for. So I guess it's just me. So with 2 laps to go, Jose comes up next to me and says, wait till the last lap. So he wants to go together, and I think that's a good idea. So we're crossing the lap line for 1 lap to go. And I'm just kind of trying to stick with him so that we're in a good position to make a move together. But he's got a good long kick where I think if we go together kind of early in this last lap, we can do something hopefully useful. So we're rounding out this turn. No one else is really setting off on their attack yet, which means it's a good time for me to do mine. So I pull up alongside Jose to make sure to get his attention. He sees me. We jump off to the right and set off. And the trick here is we've got to go much faster than everybody else, because we're on the outside of the turn. So they've got a shorter line, and we've got to just keep the speed really high to get away from them. Max back there is kind of having a hard time deciding which wheel to take. Everyone else jumps on us, but then they're all sitting up trying to decide who's going to chase it. So that gives us a good opportunity. We get some good space coming in this last turn, which is just critical and really kind of seals the deal for a win for one of us. So we get out of that. I try and stand up to sprint and have just nothing. I mean, like, from the 2 races today, my legs are jelly. So Jose takes first, and I take second place in the B race.